To all brothers and sisters who are scattered in all corners of the earth, Shalom, Shalom, Sanbonani. To my friends and family Ngiyanibingelela, Sanbonani. I'd like to take this opportunity to thank all subscribers of this channel, especially those who joined us in the past 2 weeks. Thank you for subscribing and welcome to this channel. If you have not subscribed to this channel, please consider to do so. Subscribe to this channel, hit the notification bell, share this video and like it. Share it with your friends and family and like this video. So what are we talking about today? Today we are answering a question whether we are in the first or the second covenant. If we are not in the first covenant, or what Christians call the old covenant, are we then in the second covenant? I realize that as we're talking about whether or not we can practice these laws, I needed to clarify something. We cannot practice these laws in vain without talking about the covenant. These laws are connected to the covenant. They are about the covenant. So you cannot violate the covenant and then obey the laws. It just gives a sense of not understanding what you are doing. Now, what is a covenant? This covenant, which is sometimes called the Old Covenant or the Mosaic covenant, it is a covenant between the children of Israel and the Almighty. So the Almighty made a covenant with our forefathers, Abraham, Isaac, and Yaakov, and committed to them that he will give us the promised land. But there were provisions and conditions. There are no conditions for having the land. The promised land is given to us. But staying and living in that land in peace, in harmony, in prosperity, there are certain things that we need to abide by. And those things are the laws that governs that land. And what are those laws? These laws are stipulated in Exodus, in the book of Exodus. They begin with an introduction to these laws with what Christians called the 10 Commandments. And I think that I also called them the 10 Commandments because, you grew up in an environment where they are called the 10 Commandments and you also assume that's what they mean. But look at these words in Hebrew. They are Aseret Devarim. They are not 10 commandments. Aseret means 10. Devarim means words. Words or matters or issues. So these are 10 issues to be considered. 10 matters to be considered, not 10 commandments. If you thought that you can at least abide by these 10 commandments, so you have started on a wrong footing, because these are not commandments, these are matters to be considered. You will realize that as chapters proceed, from chapter 20 of Exodus, Shemot, Sefer Shemot, then there's an elaboration of what these laws, these matters are. And they are therefore now promulgated into law. They are matters to be considered and therefore they are passed into law. They are made law, and they are explained. It is explained what it means to violate any of these matters. Now, the first matter to be considered here is a matter which is violated by a lot of us, knowingly or unknowingly. If you read what is called the Ten Commandments, you realize that they have been shortened. Certain words have been taken out. Now, that's the first problem. It starts by saying, the first commandment starts by saying, I am Yud Hey Vav Hey, if you wish, or Yah, your Elohim, who brought you out of the land of Mitzrayim, or Egypt, out of the land of bondage. It starts by saying that, and all of that is omitted. And then it says, you shall have no other Elohim before me. That's what you see in the Ten Commandments that you see. You shall have no other Elohim before me. Now, in one video I once explained that the Catholic Church has further altered these 10 matters because they want to willingly sin. So they want to sin with a clear conscience. So the commandment that says that you shall carve no image of anything in heaven, of any likeness in heaven and on earth, they've removed it so that their conscience are clear when they put the cross and they put the pictures and statues of people whom they say are gods and saints. And they have a picture of heaven and all sorts of things that this commandment says you shouldn't do. And many of us have followed in their practices and are doing the same thing. But let's talk about this covenant for a minute. What is this covenant? The covenant is, in Hebrew, the word covenant means berit. A berit means to cut. So when a covenant is made between two people, they would cut something. They would cut an animal in particular into two pieces. And they conclude the covenant by walking between the two pieces. It's like having an agreement. Today, when we have an agreement, we sign. Each party signs, and the agreement stipulates that this is what the agreement is about. And it also says that if there's a violation of this agreement, these are the consequences. Similarly, with our covenant with the Almighty, our part of the covenant, although in this case, we did not initiate the covenant, the Almighty initiated it. He committed to our forefathers to have a covenant with us. But in that covenant, we must obey Him as our Almighty and obey the laws that He will give us. And He will bless us abundantly if we obey Him. Now, the covenant has collapsed. That is why we are in captivity. It did not work. We violated it. Now, how do you say that you have an agreement with the bank when you have violated the agreement? They will repossess your house. They will repossess your car. So the agreement collapses. You cannot anymore reinstitute it unless you pay. And if you pay, there will be a new arrangement that will be made. Whatever agreement you make with the bank, it's a different agreement. It's no longer the agreement you entered when you started with the payment of your house or your car or anything, any loan that you take from the bank. You realize that there's an agreement and you must stick to that agreement. If you violate that agreement, the agreement collapses. When the agreement collapses, it automatically kicks in another regime. And another regime will be entered into when you come to the bank and say, can we have an adjustment to the agreement we had? Can we now have another agreement? I will no longer be able to pay this way, but this is what I'm willing to. If you don't have that agreement, your house will be repossessed. So we don't have an agreement. The only agreement we have is the first agreement, the first covenant, the Mosaic covenant. It has collapsed. And therefore, we cannot apply the law under a constitution or an agreement that has collapsed. If we do so, we are doing it in vain, because there are no longer two parties in agreement. The first party said, you have violated my commandments. I'm kicking you out of the land. You are in the land of captivity. The corrupt laws apply to you now because you walked away from the righteous laws. How do you bring yourself back? You bring yourself back by asking for mercy. You bring yourself back by asking for compassion. You bring yourself back by realizing that you can't do this thing anymore on your own. As long as we think that we can still do certain things on our own, there are people who are celebrating the Shabbat. There are people who are celebrating, you will find on YouTube, Hebrew Israelite Sunday worship. They even say Sunday worship. When Sunday is the name of a god, I was rebuked for using the name God for Almighty by the same people who are saying we are having a Sunday worship. But we don't stop there. We still use the words like the names of the week. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. All these are names of gods. And we use this parallel to our worship, to our congregation, to everything that is righteous that we do. And we stubbornly say, we consciously know what is right. And so this doesn't affect the good things that we do. It does. We are prohibited from using these parallels. Even the months of the year, January, February, all these are names of gods. The Roman and the Greek gods. Google these and find out what they mean. What is January? What is Monday? What is it named after? What does it mean? So, righteousness and wickedness cannot mix, cannot be at the same time. Brother Yosef sent me an article where he talks about holiness and what it means to be separated from wickedness. It is a fascinating article. And I wish I could share it with you. I think if you ask for it, I will send an email to you, because he said to me, you can use it whichever way you want to use it. So I'm guessing that he's given me permission to share it with other people as well, together with a lot of things that he has shared with me anyways. Separating yourself, righteousness and wickedness, they don't mix. When Israel came out of the land of Mitzrayim or Egypt, sometimes I ask myself, what was going on there? Because the Almighty talks to Moses and he said to him, tell the children of Israel, when they want to go out and do their business, they go to the toilet, they must take a shovel and dig a hole and then cover their mess, because my spirit hovers around their camp to protect them. Now, I cannot come if their things are sticking out on the ground. I'm using my words. They need to cover their mess. Now, this sounds like a small thing, but he is holy, and therefore we must be holy. Now consider this. His spirit cannot be. There are people who go to the bathroom and open the Bible and read it whilst they're doing their business in the Bible, in the toilet. Now he says, tell the children of Israel to go out of the camp. That's the first thing. They must go out of the camp and then dig a hole and then cover it. So it means before that, people just went around the corner, around the tent, and they squatted there. And they didn't cover, they just carry on. It was a mess. Now, you can see, you can begin, at its basic sense, what holiness is. And the Almighty say, if we obey these laws, we will be a special people to Him. We will be a holy nation, a kingdom of priests, and a holy nation. It is difficult under these circumstances to be regarded as a kingdom of priests and a holy nation when we have one leg stuck in unrighteousness and then trying to do righteous things at the same time. Now we need to repent. We need to realize that we can't do these things that we are trying to do. Only when the Messiah comes will it be possible to do these things. Only when we are restored to the land will it be possible to do these things. Only we have wholeheartedly returned to the Almighty will we be able to do so. We've violated the covenant. We cannot on our own force our return without repenting, without realizing that we have no power to do what is right. And we must pray for our restoration into the land so that we are free from unrighteousness. As long as we think we can, as long as we think we have ideas on how we can do, we are fooling ourselves. We are just procrastinating, delaying the inevitable. So let's do the right thing. Let's repent. Let's show remorse. Let's realize that we can't do these things. In the words of Hosea 3:4-5, he says, for the Israelites will live many days without king or prince, without sacrifice or sacred stones. Now this sacrifice and sacred stones, these are places of worship, the temple. And it says, we will live many days without kings, without these things. Afterwards, Israelites will return and seek the Almighty, their Elohim, and David, their king. We will seek the Almighty and David, our king. Who is David, our king? The Messiah. And then what? They will come trembling to the Almighty and to His blessings in the last days. It seems like we're not in the last days yet. Christians got it wrong. They thought we were in the last days 2,000 years ago. That's why they thought we're in we're in the new covenant. We will talk about the new covenant. You will see that we are not in the new covenant. We are still in the first covenant, but we have collapsed it because we have violated every bit of it. and it cannot work in captivity because there's another law that is working there. So you can't have two laws. The structures of this covenant has collapsed. We don't have kings, we don't have the temple, we don't have priests. We can't do what we want to do. And the only way is to repent, return to the Almighty, as Hosea is saying in Hosea 3:4-5. Please, let us consider these words of Hosea and realize that we are powerless now. We are in captivity. We are forced to do the things that we can't do anything about. And we can't do what is righteous. We can only pray and ask for restoration, and ask for forgiveness, and ask for mercy so that we can be restored. Realize that without the Messiah, we cannot go anywhere. Please consider these things. Make your comments. I would like to hear from you. Thank you very much for your attention. Until next time.